Hey, everybody. I'm glad you've joined us for another Search Lab webinar today. And of course, we're focused on a GBP checklist for car dealers specifically. And if you haven't checked it out, we've done major studies on Google business profiles around car dealerships. We have those studies up. I'm going to actually reference that in some of these slides here today. So I'm glad that you have joined us, and we're going to go ahead and get started. There's plenty of people in the room already. Don't need to wait for everyone to get here, because if they're late, they're late. They can always catch up. So let's start diving into this checklist. Of course, it's going to be a little more than a checklist. We're going to have a little bit more of a conversation, but let's go ahead and start diving into it. If you don't know me, my name is Dane Saville. I'm the head of search and AI visibility here at Search Lab Digital, the former SEO director, and I get to have fun joining and talking to folks like you. So I hope you enjoy today. So here's the deal. If my slides would work, there we go. We're going to unlock some GBP insights. So there are things, whether you're doing these sort of efforts yourself or you're working with an agency. I know a lot of folks work with agencies. You might not have checked up on things in a while, right? You might be relying on your agency to do things the right way. So we're going to make sure that we're aligned with best practices in today's landscape for GBP. And it's important because when you think about the idea of ranking, you think about the idea of visibility, a lot of what your GBP offers is also extracted from LLMs, right? ChatGPT, Claude. Different platforms will actually leverage your GBP for context, for understanding of the who, the what, the where, and the why of your business. So all of these different things are going to be really important to make sure that you have fully optimized. Some of these might be very obvious for some of you. Some of you might have not checked this in a while or might not be aware. So I want to make sure I get to all of these different elements. So again, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. And so here we go. So let's unlock some of these insights. So number one, your business name, right? You want to make sure that it is either your legal business name or a DBA. It just needs to match what the real world brand name that people are going to engage with and see, right? It needs to be, how your business is known in the real world for customers to engage with. And oftentimes in a lot of our audits, in a lot of the uncoverings and discovery we had with our GBP audit that we did, or GBP, I should say, study that we did, was we'd see a lot of instances where folks would add in sales, right, to the end of their sales GBP, even though, right, if my last name is Saville, right, if it was Saville Ford is my DBA or my legally business name, Saville Ford, but then I add in sales. That's keyword stuffing, right? That breaks Google's compliance. Inc. is typically, I mean, if it's really part of your legal business name, right? If that's really how it's registered, typically Google doesn't like to see official nomenclature like LLC or Inc. So I typically try to say avoid using stuff like that. So there's sort of a gray area there, but I would probably say best practice would be to avoid adding that in, right? Because typically you're not going to go to a car dealership and you see Saville Ford Inc. on the billboard or on the signage outside, right? So make sure that whatever it is that your business name is truly matches the experience of what people are going to see when they sign paperwork, when they show up at the dealership, right? When they get your business card. So make sure you're not out of compliance with Google's regulations and expectations, so, and documentation, which has been updated lately, right? Even reviews, a review policy was just updated recently as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to that aspect of Google Business Profile. So again, legally registered business name or your DBA. Do not keyword stuff. Do not in other institutional or legal or other nomenclature into those business names. Primary and secondary categories. I think a lot of folks here might be surprised that we still see a lot of issues, right? It should either be your brand name, right? Chevy dealer, right? Honda dealer. If, however, you are the only Chevy dealer, Honda dealer, whatever dealer in your market, then you'd want to rely on used car dealer, because then typically if you are the only brand in that market, right? You in your PMA, right? There's no other brand that is competing against you. typically you're going to have a lot of independent dealerships. So your primary competitors are going to be those independent dealerships, because since you're the only brand dealer in the market, you're going to show up no matter what, right? Like if I'm local and I a Honda dealer near me, that knowledge panel, that GBP is going to show up, and you're going to own that space. So if you are the only brand in that market, you could use car dealer, but then otherwise use that brand. But then there are other issues with secondary categories, and I see this a lot. So if you haven't audited your categories in a while, if you rely on an agency to be doing the work for you, make sure you go in the back end, go to edit your profile, take a look at those categories, because oftentimes we'll find that, and these are all real examples, right? I took out names because I don't want to, in case someone's on join the webinar, I don't want to embarrass them. But these are real world examples, right? We see that you can have up to 10 categories chosen, right? We see the Chevy dealer has Chevrolet dealer as their main category, and I can confirm they have more than one Chevy dealer in their market, so that's good. Car dealer, truck dealer, used car dealer. We got motor vehicle dealer. We got car loan, lease and finance, or car loan and finance. We got car leasing service. We have motor vehicle dealer. We have auto broker. We have used truck dealer, electric vehicle dealer. That's a big one. So that's a relatively newer category, and a lot of folks have not gone back to audit their categories and added that in as a secondary category. So we see oftentimes that categories are missing, or we see that there are incorrect categories added to this sales listing, right? Kia dealer, again, can confirm they have more than one Kia dealer in their market, but they have auto parts store, car repair and maintenance service, right? We want to avoid those service categories because we want to make sure that we align the experience the customer has based on what they're searching for. The whole reason we create those secondary category, or the other listings, the nested listings, is because we want to streamline that customer journey, which we'll talk about in a few moments. So make sure that you don't have any incorrect categories selected as well. And then, of course, incorrect categories, again, Infinity dealer, they have truck dealer chosen. Last time I checked, Infinity does not sell commercial or pickup trucks. So we would not want to have that selected as a secondary category. So again, think about categories as my business is an Infinity dealer, is a car dealer, is car loan and finance. If you say my business is a truck dealer and you don't sell commercial or pickup trucks, you're incorrect on those category selections. So make sure that you're always capturing the right type of demand from customers based on the categories you're choosing. Of course, categories are one of the top ranking factors for ranking, right? So, proximity is number one, right? There's nothing we can do about where your business is unless you can just pick it up and move it, which is pretty impractical. So categories are, beyond proximity, the number one ranking factor for making sure you show up for the right types of categorical searches that are happening in your marketplace. So again, if you have not, please go back. One of the second piece of checklist. First is to make sure that your name is either the legal business name or DBA. Second point of the checklist, audit your categories. Make sure you have everything chosen that is relevant for you. And again, EV dealer is one that's often missing from a lot of dealerships that I see that we audit when they have EV even in the navigation menu on their website. And same goes for your service and parts categories, right? Or your service and parts listings, right? We want to make sure we have everything selected that is correct for that particular listing. You can see in auto repair shop, second row on the right, car battery store, that should actually be in the parts department. So let's make sure, again, we are aligned. Don't just audit your sales listing. Make sure you look at your service and your parts listings as well, and make sure you have all of those different categories chosen that are relevant. Shop and tire service and repair, transmission, etc. There are so many different categories to make sure that you're showing up, again, when they're not looking for your dealership, but they're looking for that type of service or for those types of parts, right? Especially when you're like CDJR and you have Jeeps, lots of accessories there, right? Make sure you have, accessory store chosen. So again, audit all of them. Audit all of your listings that you have for every dealership you might be representing, not just sales, but service and parts as well, which is a perfect segue. Separate department listings. Again, you'd be shocked how many folks we audit that do not have those separated out, right? If you have car rental service even, right? If you have car rental, you could add that as a nested listing, right? They have their own likely phone number. There'll be a separate entrance, or at least an assigned area within the dealership. So you make sure you have those separated and nested within the main listing itself. You'd be surprised. In our study of the GBPs, about a few thousand Google Business Profiles, car dealers only, again, of a few thousand Google Business Profiles, of those that ranked number one, only 62% had separate department listings. So again, if you've not taken a look, you've acquired a new dealership, you rely on an agency. If you have not taken a look lately, make sure you take a look and that you see those departments listed, right? And make sure that it's not just like service center parts. Make sure it's right. It's good for branding purposes, because then it's good for the sort of a cohesion of a customer journey, right? They happen to see your sales listing and they click the service department, then they land and they see Saville Ford Service Center, right? So that way it's aligned. They understand that they're still landing in the right place. There's no customer confusion there. But oftentimes we'll see that they're either combined, right? We'll see that it'll be, as you can see here, Genesis Service and Parts Center combined. No, you want those separated out. Or we'll see that there's only a service or parts listing within there, nested. So make sure, again, you have both and that they are separate, because, again, as I said earlier, think about the customer journey. Anytime we make people click or scroll or take an action to get to where they want to go or do what they want to do, that's an opportunity for them to disengage with us, right? So when you make sure that you don't have service categories in your sales listing, and we help ensure that your service listing shows for service searches, you're going to be deep linked to the service center. You probably have a secondary link to an appointment scheduler. You have your phone number, your hours of operation, right? You have everything that's related to service. So that way, when I call, when I click through to the website, everything is an aligned, streamlined journey for the customer. Again, if I'm doing service searches and your sales category shows up, it's probably going to your main number. Then I get there, then I got to get transferred, or I click through the website and I got to navigate the website to the service center, right? We want to, when SEO shouldn't just be about driving traffic. It should be about making sure the traffic has an easy customer journey to take the actions we want them to take, right? It's about, ultimately, SEO is about leads. It's about conversions. So your dealership has more opportunities for more repair orders and more sales, and sell more accessories and parts as well. Posts. Now, posts are not a direct ranking factor, right? Posts are a conversion opportunity. So this is an opportunity for us to I always say go about Google posts like this. Yes, specials are really great. You want to highlight specials. They're relevant for customers. You can drive them through to a specials page. That's good. In lieu of specials, right? Because there might be only so many specials you want to highlight. Maybe not, right? Maybe you want to maybe you have lots of specials, you want to highlight them all. I always say you can always look in analytics, and you can look at what pages are getting the most highly engaged sessions. What's that content they're engaging with? What is it? A specific model? Is it new inventory? Is it a specific trim? Is it a blog that is around a particular feature? And you can parlay that in a Google post. Because to me, if I'm driving a lot of relevant traffic that is really highly engaged, I want to capitalize on that trend. I want to capitalize on what that search behavior is, what that on-site behavior is. You can parlay that into a Google post. So leverage data, right? You don't have to rely only on your sales specials. Everything in SEO should be data-driven. Leverage the data you have to create Google posts. That way, you don't have to sit there and try to reinvent the wheel or try to conceive of something, right? You can actually use the data you own to drive more Google posts. Now, you want to make sure, number one, that they're well formatted. You can see here that unfortunate young man, his head's cut off there at the top. Mom's getting a haircut as well. You can see in the top right corner that some of the text is cut off. You don't really want to have more than 20% of the image to have text. That might be around 20%. I'm not exactly a graphic designer and a visual artist, but I probably want to have, I think the less text, the better. Let the copy drive the interest, right? Make sure that you have about 12, 15, maybe sometimes up to 20 words to capture someone's attention. Let's make sure that the copy is really what is the compelling sort of feature. Think of it as your meta description. Your meta description doesn't impact ranking, but it impacts click-through rate. So we want to make sure that whatever it is we're writing, is the first pieces of text are the most highly compelling, engaging, interesting information there. And then you can see in the top left corner that BMW, that beautiful car, that's a beautiful color. You can see part of it is cut off there. The right front headlights cut off, part of the grille, part of the trunk. Make sure you have your images formatted well. I like to liken it to a billboard, right? On a billboard, you're not going to create a billboard where, you know, half the vehicle is shown. Treat these like a billboard. Make sure they are formatted correctly. So format correctly, so that way it looks nice, minimal text in the image itself. Let the text, let the actual text of the post drive the engagement, drive the interest. And if you have trouble with that, well, before I get to that point, think about cadence as well. So on average in our study, the number one ranked GBP out of those thousands we looked at, the ones that were ranked number one, an average of 3 posts per month. So we at Search Lab, we do 1 per week. So, you know, think about when was the last time you did a Google post? Do you have a good cadence? Are you making it data-driven? Is it formatted well? And again, to the point of formatting, we have actually, you can see there, the bit.ly link. We have something you can download where you can leverage that either in Photoshop or in Canva. And you can lay out the image so that way, when you're in that safe zone, you know the image is not going to be cut off. So if you want to leverage that, if you want to use that resource that we have, you can use that because, again, you can see where it's possibly visible in thumbnail and then the not visible. Again, we want to make sure that the image is formatted well, because think about, I like to say also it's about professionalism. If the images are wonky or disjointed, cut off, it doesn't look professional. Anytime we have something that's consumer facing, we want to make sure looks good, looks professional. We want to represent that same professionalism they're going to experience when they come to the dealership through different elements they're going to engage with on the Google business profile. So again, you can use that link to help you out there. And again, cadence of 3, number one ranked out of those thousands. Again, I think 1 a week is a good cadence. It's about how long they kind of natively last to be shown. Again, if you haven't done one in a while, go ahead and do that. Again, sales specials or look in analytics, highly engaged sessions. What's that content? Use that data, use those insights. Social media profiles. This is great because social media profiles, number one, are another avenue for consumers to engage with your business. It also demonstrates additional efforts to provide content to people. So active profiles are really good. And of course, 90%, even GBPs rank, the average GBP ranked number 10 in our study had 93% of them had social profiles on their GBP. So 90% plus. So whether they were added by Google or whether you manually added them, it's great to have them in there, right? You can have your YouTube, your Twitter, your Instagram, your Facebook. But caveat to this, and I see this lots of times in the audits that we do for car dealers, and that is this. I go to click through. The X account doesn't exist. Or there have been no posts yet on Instagram. Remove those links. It's pointless, right? The idea is to have more customer engaging content. The idea is to demonstrate that you have other social links that have usable, engageable, useful content. Think about it. There now in Google search results, you have short videos. It's one of the search features that will populate in search results. What do they use? Instagram often. You'll see Instagram posts in those short videos from like Reels and everything. And so you want to make sure that you are using those social media profiles. So only link them if you're actually using them, or remove them if you're not. Another caveat, if you're not using them, use them, right? Take advantage of that. Think about knowledge graphs, right? Knowledge graphs are important. LLMs, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, right? They build a knowledge graph about your business using different entities. They don't rely only on your website or your GBP. The more assets you can have that have your brand name, a consistent description of your business, the who, the what, the where, the why, that NAP consistency, those value proposition consistencies, the more you have active entities across the web, the more you validate and the more they can validate and confirm that information about who you are and why you. So again, if you're not leveraging social media, even though that's outside the purview of Search Lab. Good tip here, right? Make sure you're using social media as well, because again, that you want to build that knowledge graph so that way you have better associations for what LLMs, AI understand about your business related to some of those core topics you can post about on all those different profiles as well. Attributes. So attributes actually help you with ranking, help you with visibility. Because if you are, let's say you're veteran-owned, you're a veteran-owned business, there's an attribute for veteran-owned. Say I go on Google and I type in, what are veteran-owned car dealerships near me? You have that attribute chosen. You have the context on your GBP that tells Google that you are relevant for that specific type of search. It's sort of like review justifications, which we'll talk about later, but there are attributes can help you show up in search when people search specifically for some of those attributes that you can offer at your dealership. Also, LLMs use those attributes. LLMs will use your attributes to understand more about what you offer. So that way, when I'm on ChatGPT and I type in, maybe I'm disabled. I'm a disabled person and I'm looking for a wheelchair accessible dealership near me who also has wheelchair accessible restrooms. You can have those attributes chosen. So again, make sure you've gone through your profile, back-end login. You scroll down a little bit, and when you go to edit your profile, you'll see the different levels of attributes, such as from the business. Look at all those different things you can choose from. Is a small business. You're a car dealership. Yeah, you're a small business. Maybe you're women-owned. Maybe you're veteran-owned. Maybe you're Latino-owned, Black-owned, Asian-owned. Whatever it might be, you have different attributes you can choose from that, again, can provide more context for consumers. Also, again, help you show up in search results when those specific searches start to happen. And let me back up. Let's say even if it's 3 searches a month, don't you want 3 more opportunities to sell a car, right? Every opportunity matters. So I'm not looking at this as a volume play. I'm looking at this as a consumer engagement play, right? Making it relevancy here. Accessibility attributes, like I said, wheelchairs accessible, entrance, lot, restroom, seating. Crowd attributes, parking attributes, free parking, parking lot, whatever it might be, on-site parking. Make sure you have those different things chosen. Offerings. Again, when I said earlier, car rental, right? There's an attribute, car wash, oil change, repair. Maybe your service department requires an appointment required, right? Service options, offers delivery, in-store shopping, on-site services available. So there's all these different attributes that when you want to assess what it is that you offer in the dealership and what really truly matches the experience the consumer is going to have when they come into the dealership. So those profile attributes, if you have not audited those in a while, go log in, you scroll through, you open up each one with the edit button, and you can see all your options. Make sure all those that are relevant are selected. And then payments, right? Do you accept checks, credit cards? What types of credit cards? Do you accept MSC mobile payments? So again, payments, so that way people know what it is that you accept when they come into the business. UTM strings. This is a big one. And there's a lot of folks that do things a lot of different ways. And there's sort of a singular way that makes it really easy to extract the information in analytics, right? This will streamline everything to make it very easy to understand Google business profile traffic. And I think if my good friend George Nenny were on here, were in here, he would agree with me that this is the appropriate string to create, right? Your UTM source should not be Google. And then I often see source Google, medium organic, campaign GBP. No, source should be GBP, medium is organic. That way, when you go to sort by source in your traffic acquisition, GBP, it's all there. If you want to add campaign names, you can do campaign website button, campaign name, appointments link, whatever it might be. But make sure that that source is GBP, not Google. Again, it makes it just easier, much easier to just be able to, again, to filter and extract that data for what that performance is. GBP description, I think, is one thing that is often ignored. And I will make sure I get to questions that I'll make sure I get to questions at the end. So excuse me. I saw some questions come in. I'll make sure I address those at the very end. GBP description. I think that this is often an underutilized aspect. Again, descriptions are actually something LLMs use to understand your business. So you need to, kind of get to really the brass tacks of, again, who you are, what you offer, why what are some unique things to say about your business? Do you offer unique warranty programs, financing options, loyalty programs? What really, like, get to the core of what your business is, selling cars, new and used, service, but then also what are some unique selling propositions as well. So descriptions, I'll see stuff like this. Is your, this was dealership name, is your go-to Chevy dealership in city, state. Visit our nearby automotive dealership for trusted car service in Florida, new and used Chevy sales and parts, so much more. That's pretty much to be desired. So we want to make sure we have a bit more description than that. That's very basic. I would rather see something like this, right? At Blank Kia in city, state, we prioritize you, the customer, seamless car buying experience, online store, convenient driveway delivery service, industry-leading 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, 24-hour roadside assistance. We serve these areas. In Minnesota, we have a vast selection of new models, certified pre-owned, high-quality used cars, trucks, SUVs, right? Repair and maintenance services. No tricks, no gimmicks, just exceptional service near you. We're hitting on it. Not that I wouldn't edit this myself. There are some changes I might make, but I mean, look at that detail, right? We're getting to the core of what it is that they sell, what it is that they offer, and then there's other additional value propositions that would be important for consumers to have. Same with this, right? Over 1,000 new used vehicles, right? Complimentary walkway service, 30. You get the idea, right? Look at all those different details that are important for consumers to have that feed the LLMs information that they need to have. So again, we want to make sure that we have as much information as possible for both consumers and LLMs to have. Again, we need to feed the context. Sorry, my buttons aren't working. All right, your landing page. So this is not necessarily the GBP itself, but you're going to be deep linking, typically deep link from parts service to parts service pages, as well as to your sales listing. I can't talk today. Sales listing goes to your homepage. So we want to make sure, particularly, we're going to really focus on more the primary listing, the sales listing with your GBP landing page with some of these insights. I think a lot of it's the same for service and parts as well. You want to have context, but let's talk about what's important here. So number one, make sure you're optimized for matching location, right? Name, address, phone number. There should be the shared information between the GBP and the landing page. But then also make sure that you're optimizing for your title tags, your H1s on the page as well. All right, I'm in Pensacola. Let's say I own a Ford dealership at Ford dealership in Pensacola, Pipe, Saville Ford. Never start your title tags out with your brand name. Always start out with the topic and the location, right? Ford dealership in city, state. Never do near city, state on any page. I know I digress, but I'm a writer by trade. Sorry, everyone. Number one, unless there's no other competition in that city, near won't get you shown in the map pack. That doesn't help you at all with the map pack or the local pack. Near really won't help you in blue links really either. And number two, no one searches for car dealership near city. They search for car dealership in city. So the near just doesn't make sense for several levels, especially your homepage. Make sure your homepage matches that location that you're actually in. Again, shared local phone number. So if you have call tracking, you can get a localized call tracking number. Make sure that numbers line up on both the GBP and the homepage. Auto dealer schema markup. This typically comes stock and standard with, I believe, most CMS platforms. It's not always done real well. You always want to make sure it's optimized, right? You can have your hours of operation, address, geo coordinates, phone number, any number of details that you can add in there. Sometimes I see secondary markup, like I'll see auto dealer markup and then address markup. You don't need that. Or there'll be auto dealer markup and organization markup. Organization markup is really for businesses on a single domain that represent multiple locations, like a group site. If you're an individual child site, I wouldn't use organization markup if you're an individual location. So auto dealer schema markup, make sure you have on your homepage. A lot of times OEM or CMSs are, dealer on dealer.com. A lot of them use div background images. If you can work with your rep to have those changed to embedded images, that allows you to have alt text. Alt text, number one, is for screen readers, but number two, every element on a web page, right? There's no silver bullet in SEO. Every element on a web page needs to add towards the relevancy of it. So even alt text is another nuanced element. So make sure you have alt text on your embedded images. And again, if they're div background, see what you could do to get those to be embedded instead. And then meaningful content. Your homepage is sort of the catch-all. You want to talk about your new vehicles, used vehicles, your service, financing. It should really be all encapsulating because it's that primary landing page. It's a primary page that a lot of different platforms leverage to understand your business overall. Yes, they'll use other pages when they can find and surface them. And the average word count from our study for the number one ranked GBPs was 1,613 average word count on the homepage. So being more descriptive, robust, detailed as you can, the better. So if you have not looked at your homepage in a while, make sure that you do. And then again, for your service and parts departments, make sure that you have requisite information on those pages, describe your services, your value propositions, certified technicians, the different services you offer. They don't all have to be essays, and also LLMs like bullet points, people scan. So don't just do big blocks of text, break it up, bullet lists, numbered lists, things like that. If you have the appetite for it, some graphs or charts or anything that makes sense to add on to a page, to break it up so it's not just walls of text there either. Fresh photos and videos. So this is really important. It's not a ranking factor. It's a conversion factor. It's a matter of not looking stale, right? It's for consumer engagement. The more active you can be, the fresher photos, adding that new content, it's really important, right? We even see that in different studies that GBPs that add fresh photos and videos to their GBP actually have higher engagement rates, have higher click-through rates, have better ranking capabilities, because then they're getting other engagements on there that matter to Google and visibility. So those fresh photos and videos are important. So again, the outside, the lot, the showroom, your waiting area, business lounge, the service bays, they should be high quality. Make sure they're high quality. You should outpace customer photos, right? Make sure that owner photos are really the predominant asset that are in that profile. Videos can be up to 30 seconds, 720 HP, I think it is. So make sure it's, again, decent quality video up to 30 seconds. Capture something pretty. 30 seconds is actually longer than you think. Maybe capture a new model, a new trim you just got, a new service bay. Kind of walk through the service bay. Count to 20 seconds, get through the service bay. Maybe update your business center, your amenities. So don't be afraid to go through, and people like to see that experience, right? Google EAT principles. The first one is experience. Google likes to see real world photos and real world experiences. People like to see experience. Experience also means you have experience in the field that you work in, but experience, it has multiple layers of meaning here, right? Let's show the experience to the consumer that they're going to have through having really good photos and videos of the dealership. And reviews. Reviews are really important, cannot underscore enough. Even ChatGPT, you can do best of searches in ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will do a grounded search, and it will pull in Google Business Profile information. So it's not just for map pack ranking. It's not just for just general ranking too. It's also for LLMs, right? It's for citation visibility, making sure that, when those different types of searches happen, when they're looking for high quality organizations to give their business to, your reviews matter so much. And there's layers here, and I think two of the layers are talked about more often than others. So number one, yes, review count matters. Now, there's no magic number after 10 reviews. 10 reviews, then that really kind of gets you like on the map, right? And then after that, it's just you just need to have a pace where you have a greater count than your competitors, right? So there's no magic number. It's just, where are you in relation to the competitors that are in your marketplace? Review score, yeah, that matters. For us, we see a sort of Goldilocks zone of 4.4 to a 4.6. I know everyone's like, well, I want 5.0. Well, number one, if you just get suddenly a mass influx of just 5-star ratings with really no descriptions, that can look spammy, that can get flagged. And 5.0 can look inauthentic to consumers. Let's be honest. Not every business nails it every time. And that's okay. That's okay not to be perfect. People don't expect perfection, but what people want to see is then that response, which we'll get to in a minute. But that review score, 4.4, 4.6, that's kind of a Goldilocks zone. That shows authenticity. That's about where number one ranked are anyway, about a 4.6. So don't obsess over necessarily what the score is, as long as you're not, like dropping below that 4.4. Then let's worry about processes in the dealership. But then also review cadence. It is better to get 2-3 reviews a week than it is to go 3 months without reviews and 20 reviews in a week. That just regular cadence we've seen actually is more beneficial than just some sort of like nothing for a while, just radio silence and then smack a bunch of reviews. So think about making sure you have a good regular cadence of reviews happening. So then review responses. Sorry, I got lost in my thoughts there for a second. Review responses, when you think about responding to reviews, we often see that dealerships will respond to every positive review and ignore the negative ones. And it really should be almost the exact opposite, right? If you're going to ignore any reviews, like let the positive ones sit there and respond to the negative ones. But ideally, you're going to respond to every single review. Hopefully you'll get to them within 7 days. When we do our audits, we'll kind of if you haven't responded to reviews in about the past 5 days, we kind of let that slide and still say you respond to every review because maybe you got busy and you're going to get to it. But make sure you have timely responses. The sooner the better. And responding to negative reviews, it's not just for responding to that person who left the review. It's also for everybody else who's going to see that review, right? So it's not just for that person, it's for everybody else. That's sort of like a quasi-public relations facing sort of play there. So make sure you're responding to reviews. So again, review count, no magic number, just have more than your competitors, right? Be leading in your market if you can. Review score, make sure you're giving a good experience. If you don't have a 5.0, don't sweat it. It's okay as long as you're responding to all those different reviews. And then cadence, make sure you have a good process that goes through. And I said earlier, I was going to talk about review justifications. So for those of you that may not be aware, Google, you can actually help yourself with visibility by having customers write more substantive reviews. Number one, they also stay natively shown, right? When you first land on the GB, when you first see the GBP and it says most relevant often it would be reviews that include images and reviews that are really comprehensive, really detailed. If you don't have one, we always recommend, we build for our partners, a review us page. So you have a place that your salespeople can send folks to. So you have a place that can land there, and then you can't tell them like exactly what to write, but you can like softly massage what that review is going to be. Like, hey, like how was the experience? What did you buy? Or what was the service you got? You can be pretty concrete about it. You can't be like, name the person that you did business with, right? That's one of those updates that you can't say like, make sure you name folks that you did business with. But you can do some things where you kind of describe how to leave a review, right? You're giving them some tips. Because let's say you have a review that says, I went to Saville Ford, bought my new Ford Bronco, I don't, off the top of my head, honestly, I don't remember the trim names, but let's say XLT. And it was a great experience. I love XYZ features. And let's say someone in your marketplace is looking for Ford Bronco, trim level. Well, you have reviews that have that exact language that matches the search that's happening. You are more likely to be shown your GBP with that snippet because Google is justifying showing you because your review justifies it. Because that review has language, that user-generated content has language that matches the person's search. So your reviews can also help with visibility as well. So not only does it matter for ranking purposes and local pack and map pack, it helps also with ChatGPT and LLMs, and it helps also potentially with review justifications to get you even more visibility as well there. Excuse me while I take a quick sip of water. Sorry about that. So reviews cannot underscore the importance of those reviews. So here's sort of like the end, the checklist here at the very end, right? So again, number one, we're going to kind of recap in case anyone joined late. I'm sorry for those of you that have been here the whole time. You're going to hear some things repeated. And anyone that joined late, number one, when you go through this checklist, make sure that the name of your GBP is your legally registered business name or DBA. Don't have additional keywords or like institutional or intellectual nomenclature like LLC. Just what am I gonna see when I pull up to your dealership? What is that big sign? What does that big sign say? That's really what I should see on your GBP. Primary and secondary categories. Again, brand name if you're in a market that has multiple of your brand. Otherwise, if you have miles and miles and miles and miles before the next branded competitor, used car dealer would be a primary category you could use. And then make sure you have all those secondary categories chosen that are relevant to your business. Again, recently, we saw that EV dealer is missing from a lot of dealerships that have electric vehicles in their inventory. And then make sure you don't have service or parts categories chosen for your main listing. Same thing, audit your service and your parts listings as well. And that was a natural segue. Make sure you have those different departments nested and broken out. I know there's a question about service and parts, which I didn't fully read yet, but I noticed came through. I'll get to that. Google Posts, not a ranking factor, but a conversion opportunity. So we have the ability to engage people, right? We have the ability to make sure that folks get the highly sort of qualified information, highly specific information, highly engaging information. Again, sales specials, or look in your analytics. Where are those highly engaged sessions happening? What's that content they're engaging with? So that way you don't have to reinvent the wheel or spend hours laboring over what do I make as a Google post. Make it easy on yourself. Sales specials. Where do you have highly engaged sessions on the site? Social media profiles, if you're going to use them, make sure that they're active. And if they're not active, remove them. Or better yet, make them active. Attributes, again, are used for LLMs to better understand your business. Also helps you with visibility and ranking. So when people search for specific things like wheelchair or veteran-owned or Black-owned, women-owned, whatever it might be, you can show for those specific searches UTM codes. Remember, source GBP, not Google. Descriptions are important for LLMs. Make sure they're robust and highly descriptive. Landing page, make sure they're optimized. That's optimized well. Make sure that you have, again, NAP consistency. Make sure your title tags, your headings include the topic and the location, right? Dealership, whatever city, state. Make sure you have enough content on there, right? The more content, the better. Be robust. And then reviews. And again, count, score, cadence, important. And then, of course, the responses that you provide to them. So again, as I said at the top, some of this might have been stuff that you are very well aware of. You didn't have concerns about. Maybe there's some things that you go, oh, maybe I do need to look at that. But that's really sort of the checklist. It's not really changing that much, right? We did have the deprecation of cars for sale. We did have the deprecation of Q&A. So there are some changes. Who knows what will come in the near future for GBPs. But again, just know that, even in ChatGPT, they use Google Business Profiles for information. I'm sure when Google switches to AI mode, there's going to be no change really in the importance of your GBPs. And I'm sure the AI mode might have more interactive maps, but regardless, that's not here yet, right? We have a bit of a delay, which is good for us in local search that AI hasn't and Google hasn't quite figured that out yet. So that's the checklist there. Let's get to some questions. So should we separate new and used department listings too, not just service and parts? No, I mean, your sales is your sales department. I know that there's new and used, and you might even have some folks that focus on specific types of inventory, but your sales should just be your sales. So that would represent new and used. That's why the categories you can use, that's why there's secondary categories, right? They didn't make it that there's only one category. So you can use used categories in that main listing as well. And then of course, when you land on the home page, you can then look at new and used inventory either through the search widget or through the navigation as well. Genesis store that doesn't have an actual customer facing parts counter, so we are using a shared GBP for service and parts. I know this isn't ideal, just not sure how to get Google to approve a parts profile with no proof of a way for customers to get there. Yeah, that would be, there's no, there are rules, right? There are rules and compliance. And so that would be one of the things, is that without a dedicated customer facing counter and really without like a dedicated parts counter, yeah, then I think you're fine with that. That's sort of an individual circumstance. I guess my comment was more to the folks that do. And so we want to make sure that when you do have that separate sort of area and counter for parts, but again, if you don't have a dedicated area, you're not going to get approval. You have to have sort of that dedicated customer facing area to have that listing and get it nested. So so that would be fine then. You could have that probably, deep link to your service, and then because that's probably more important on your parts, and then just make sure you have a link to your parts department or parts page that you have on there. Format for Google Post 3x4 or 4x5. It's not really like a 3x4 or 4x5. It's a 4:3 aspect ratio. So it's 1200 by 900 pixels. So again, that link that I shared, that will give you, like, as long as you plop that image into that safe area, you'll be fine. But it's not really a 3x4 or 4x5. Again, it's a 4:3 aspect ratio. 1200 by 900 pixels would be more important to sort of understand that. Let's see. Questions regarding service department pages. When a customer goes to write a review, there are two questions it asks now. Which services did you get? How would you describe the price you paid? Will these reviews hold more weight as they pertain to the service, SEO, map pack ranking, more for know before you go overview? So service department pages, right? I'm guessing they're writing a review on the GBP. Two questions: which services did you get? How would you describe the price that you paid? Yeah, that can help in all areas. So again, if I'm looking for, if I type in, and this is going to be naturally all hypothetical, I go on ChatGPT and I type in, what services near me, or what car dealerships near me offer honest service deals or good price services for my car repair and maintenance, or and definitely. Which services did you get? Absolutely, yes. Yeah, oil change, whatever it is, services they got, absolutely, yes. That will help. That will help with map pack. That will help with map pack because, again, that review justification. So they list out exactly what service they received. Yeah, the pricing. I don't know to what degree. I need to do some research to know to what degree, particularly in your market, Cassandra, to what degree consumers look for pricing information around car service, or search long tail queries for, like good deals or whatever. But that could, but services, but what services you get? Absolutely, yes. And then of course that all feeds information. That's all context. So, especially in the age of AI, every element, like even if it's not a ranking factor for like traditional search, every element AI uses to build, again, that knowledge graph, that entity understanding of who you are. So the more people that describe good deals and services they got, the more context they provide. That is absolutely great for AI systems. So you're kind of preparing yourself, you're kind of future-proofing yourself for when Google goes full AI mode, because again, all of that context you can provide is important. That's why I said with your profile descriptions, yeah, sure, it's not going to get you found in more searches traditionally, but it's more context fed to the algorithms, the AI algorithms. And it's not really AI algorithms, it's just the way the AIs source and do grounded search for information, but the like sort of the bots and everything that they use to understand and crawl the web. So again, AI systems, if you don't have context, and this is why I know I'm kind of digressing from the main questions at hand, but that's why I always talk about a blog is important. When I was working for a 33-store group creating content, a lot of my GMs were jaded about blogs. Like, Dane, no one reads blogs. Well, no one reads anything really, right? People scan. But now with the emergence of AI, I think blogs have a resurgence in importance, because if you don't have that context on your website, or you don't have that context on some sort of other asset, you are not feeding the information these platforms need to be able to cite you. You can't get cited for searches for which you do not have that information. So I think blogs are important because you can build that textual awareness. And then, of course, for search purposes, then you interlink those blogs to the next most important page, right? You want to be logical about where you send folks on the website. So so many people link from the blog to inventory page. That might not be the most logical place for the customer to go. I want to be customer thinking. What is the next most logical place you build that? So I know I digress from the primary question, but yes, any and all context you can get and collate and collect on your GDP will absolutely help you for various factors, from AI to ranking and visibility. Any other questions? We're about 7 minutes short. I know I kind of went through that fast. I talk fast and I talk loud. Any other questions before we jump off today? All right. Well, I'll give you a few more seconds in case anyone else does, but thank you for joining us today. I hope you had some takeaways, whether it was AI, GBP. Again, go through that checklist, assess your GBP, make sure you have all of those things optimized as best you can for visibility, for AI, for local pack, for map pack, and of course, your website as well, because your GBP links to that, and of course, rankings for your homepage and your website. So everyone, thank you again for joining us, and I hope you join us for the next Search Lab webinar. Thank you all.